Remember by Brian Goodyear on Storm Talk. We will cover the storm setup for today, and then we'll touch base, obviously, on the tropics. It's capturing a lot of the attention right now, and kind of filling in some of the details that we're looking at locally on that, which there's not a lot. I'll be upfront on that. Excuse me. 74 degrees here in Louisville. Much warmer start today. Yeah, we've had some cloud cover around as well. We've got a cold front to our north and west that is slowly working its way to the southeast. Now, there's little impulses riding along it. One of them now, in fact, over Illinois, tracking into Ohio this afternoon. It's going to have like a tail to it, like a mini cold front, if you will, that could spark some thunderstorms across Indiana and then perhaps as far south as northern Kentucky. This is going to be an hour-by-hour kind of deal. At this point, I got the rain chance fairly low. Chrissy will have an update on midday, and of course, Ryan and Kevin will have much more this afternoon on what will likely change, if anything, on adjusting the chances here. But we'll have to fine-tune that because we still got some dry air, believe it or not. It doesn't feel like it, but it's dry air, relatively speaking, in our area. But the humidity does go up, especially in Indiana and western areas just west of Louisville. Okay, so we'll deal with this first off. The Storm Prediction Center keeps the marginal risk closer to the path of where that is going to be passing today because of the wind fields, which I'll show you here in a second. A couple of the models here, the high-res model, the HER model. Not him model, but HER. I'm not sure how they even know that. Anyway, the model is struggling with the convective potential here this afternoon because of the pockets of instabilities where it's struggling here where to develop thunderstorms. And it blows everything up right over Louisville and Indiana, 2 or 3 this afternoon. And then this afternoon, evening, it brings in quite a bit of activity into southern Indiana. That, to me, that looks a lot more than 20% chance for rain today. The HER model, which has a tendency to struggle with these scenarios that are more pop-up variety. Now, organized activity, it does great in, but this instability stuff is a little more of a struggle with this model. So let's switch over to another model and see what it says. This is the RPM model, our in-house model. It doesn't have anything really developing this afternoon in Indiana or Kentucky, and then it hints at that little wave in the evening time period. So having said that, I have placed the percentages basically 20 to 40%. 20 on the southern flank of that around Louisville, goes up to 40 the more north you are around Bedford Seymour, and then 10 to 20 south of there. But again, some of you will be missed completely out of this, and some of you could get quite the thunderstorm with heavy rain for your area. So it's going to be a touch-and-go deal. I'm not trying to blow this up and think it's going to be just a crazy afternoon. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying you just be weather aware. If you hear some thunder, get inside. There will be some lightning with this. And humidity is increasing, but it's not as high as it was before we had that cool down that came through here. So we're not expecting any flooding issues out of that, which is certainly some good news. Okay, another thing we're looking at instability-wise, we do have instability developing. This is from the SBC site later this afternoon. It shows this blue area. What is that blue? That tells me that thunderstorms, according to that particular model, will be passing through. So that's rain-cooled air in Indiana, but unstable in southern Kentucky. But when I looked at even where you're unstable, the downdraft cape is not that impressive. Usually 1,000 is the magic number there, or higher, and it's only about, it looks to be about maybe 800 across southern Kentucky. I mean, you could get a gusty thunderstorm out of that, but it isn't to the point where we're looking at severe weather in our area. Now, here's the kicker, though, is the wind shear, again, closer to that low, the impulse that's passing through the Illinois-Indiana area today. So because of that, this is the area to watch for more organized areas of showers and thunderstorms. Northern Kentucky will get grazed by that later this afternoon and evening. We'll watch have to see how organized this can really get because I'm a little doubtful because we do have some drier air in place compared to those north and west of us. So I'm a little hesitant on the HER model, and so at this point I'm not going to jump on that idea. All right, that's why you can't always trust models. You just got to look at what they're saying, figure out why they're saying it, and then evaluate from there. And that's what we'll do. Now, looking long term, looking at the tropics, the leftovers of Fiona getting absorbed by a cold front, although may try to come back to life later. It's a big if. Gaston hanging on at the moment, likely to become a hurricane and head toward the middle Atlantic. And then this is what we're watching. Soon to be, more than likely, a tropical depression, and then eventually Hermine. Hurricane hunters, including the infamous plane that I got a chance to ride on. It's known for flying into these things. Miss Piggy will be flying in there in about 2 hours, and we'll get probably our first update around 2 o'clock today on the result of that. Because these systems, when they're disorganized, the models have to find a point to work with and then draw out an idea of where to go from there. But if there's no defined point yet, on this low, this tropical low, then you're going to have a wide variance, because the GFS model, for example, may say it's going to be on the northern flank of that, and that's where it centers it, and therefore the atmospheric conditions, even just picking out a point on the north side versus the south side, completely different, the outcome can be. So that's a reason why we've got to get that center point nailed down, and it's getting close. I mean, a lot of convection right around the center of it. It's a good sign that it's getting organized enough to we're getting to that point where we'll have a point to work with. And that's the reason why the models are all over the place on this idea. Another thing, too, water temperature is certainly warmer where it's heading toward, if it heads toward the Bahamas. Keep in mind, the islands here, Cuba all the way through Puerto Rico and Haiti, this is a mountainous terrain, so if it tries to work its way more onto land, this is a gone deal. In fact, it's what happened at one point, Erica, I'll get it right, not too long ago. The same kind of deal took place with that. And then if it stays north of it, favorable water, the Bahamas won't disrupt it too much, but it will likely feed on that. And if it stays to the south of it, it's kind of a struggle to fit perfectly between Cancun and Cuba, but I've seen it happen. So basically, it's got some issues if it tracks north and west when it comes to disruption of it or slowing down its progress. But once it can get into this warmer water in the Gulf and in the Bahamas, that is where problems are going to develop. And that's why we've got to watch it carefully. In fact, the latest water temperatures, they're up there, near 90 along the coast. That is a lot of fuel. 80 degrees is usually the threshold for tropical systems, and we're looking at 90 in some cases, close to it. So yes, this thing can develop rapidly and strengthen rapidly once it gets in this area. But how is it going to get there? And is it going to be on this, on the west side of Florida, or is it going to be on the east side of Florida, or right through the middle of Florida? It's frustrating. So don't get too excited and too worried either about the models that are going nuts, because again, they are struggling with the focal points at this time period. So having said that, I'm going to show you the general setup and then show you the model data. This is specifically just the Euro here, showing, again, the high pressure is going to be the main driver here, because the strength of the high and the position of it's going to determine, it can't go right into it. So it's going to be forced to go northwest, and if the high is centered a little more over the Carolinas, it'll go northwest and then turn and go over Florida. And then once it gets free of the high, then it'll sense the cold front moving in across the Rockies. It'll fill that pool and get pulled into the United States, and perhaps even send some rain in our area. Not a hurricane coming in our area, but some rain. Tropical rains at that. So this high is crucial on its beginning path, and then the front moving in the Rockies is crucial. And if it does move in the Gulf, when will it turn? So many moving parts. So many things can go wrong. And looking at the model trends here, look at all these models. I mean, some go east, some taking it over Florida, which would weaken it briefly. But again, that water's so warm in the Gulf, it wouldn't take much to get it strong again. And then heads toward, some models take it toward Louisiana. Man, those poor guys, they don't need anything like that. Let's hope it doesn't even hit. It doesn't want to hit anybody. We don't want that, period. But especially Louisiana. So I'm going to show you just the ensemble models. This takes all the data and gives you a median or mean here of what the models are hinting at. Instead of showing you the model runs, which can vary from run to run, let's look at the broader scheme of things. The Euro from Weatherbell shows a general idea of low pressure either side of Florida, but it is focusing toward the Gulf. All right, so it's, excuse me, this is GFS. My apologies. This is the GFS, which, by the way, the actual model run, if we were to look at that, it takes it more like this. So the ensemble means are not agreeing with it. They're agreeing more with what the Euro has, which is moving into the Gulf. And this is, see those little L's? Those are all the potential locations of where it could be. Anywhere from southern Florida, this is, by the way, about next Tuesday and Wednesday, or all the way into Louisiana. So it at least has a focal point here, and nothing where the GFS has a track right now off the Carolina coast, which is interesting. And here's the Canadian, which doesn't have cool little L's like that. But it does give you an idea of where it looks at the potential path of this, and it has lower pressure potential moving in. Perhaps, we don't know the exact path, but it could move right through Florida into the Smokies and then turn out, or it could move right into the Gulf, like the Euro is saying, and then move northbound. So, interesting stuff setting up there. I did decide to run the SIPS and see what it says. This is where the SIPS analogs, they look at the weather pattern for next, I believe this is going to be next, let's see, the 29th. I don't even know what day that is. It's 5 days from now, so they'll put us in early next week. Anyway, it looks at all the weather data and the weather maps that are forecast for that period of time. And it says, based on what has happened before, this is what could happen and is likely to happen. And as far as heavy rainfall, notice it aims heavy rain over Florida and over the Gulf. You don't see that heavy rain potential in the Carolinas. Interesting note there. Also, look at temperature. Cooler than average along the coast in Florida, where it does have the heavier rain, but notice the heat. We see this on the northern flank of tropical systems. You're going to have a lot of sinking air. It's going to potentially get quite hot before it arrives. And if this system curves, say we're to curve through Florida and miss us altogether, we will get more of the benefit of the sinking air, and temperatures will be on the hot side. More questions and answers, guys. So stay tuned. We've got it. We'll keep you updated.